And so this idea of never giving up is so misunderstood on social media that people have started confusing it with the idea of actual perseverance. People have started thinking that if someone has decided not to pursue something anymore, then they're a loser, and that we should always just work hard in face of any obstacle. This David Goggins and anime style of motivation has almost led us to this psychotic obsession with not being seen, not wanting to be seen as a quitter. Well, the truth is that it does not lead to true perseverance, as we will see in a moment, but it leads to people not being honest with themselves. So I think it's worthwhile to understand the difference between this social media style of not quitting, never giving up, and what being actually perseverant means, and what is this true virtue of never giving up. And I believe that this false belief actually comes from two major misunderstandings. Number one is that people have absorbed this idea of never giving up and to be perseverant, but they don't actually know what to be perseverant about, which is a very major one. And the second misunderstanding is that what is the source of this idea of do not quit? Why we say do not quit, and what is the actual reason people quit? So let's try to understand the first misunderstanding, which is what to be actually perseverant about. You see, the way that this is commonly applied in our real life around us is that people think that they have to persevere on any one particular idea, project, business that they have started. And they think that if I have started something and if I have invested my resources on it, if I have come maybe halfway far, and if my intuition now says that this is not going to work out, and even some external signs and symptoms have started saying that this thing might not actually turn out to be successful, even then I must not quit. This is usually how it's thought in our common life. But the problem here is that, and this is what we need to understand, is that we should always persevere on our principles and long term purpose rather than on individual ideas or tactics. We should always stay true to what values we have defined for ourselves in our life rather than on these individual ventures that we start. We can start a project and invest time and resources and reach halfway point and realize that this is not going to work out. Then this fear comes up in our mind that if I quit now, then I will be called a quitter and I'll be thought of as not being a hard worker, which is such a high virtue. So none of us wants to be thought of that way. But the truth here is that in this case scenario, we should just fall back to our original motivation of why we actually started this journey in the first place, and whether continuing on this path would actually achieve that or not. Because many times before starting something, we might believe that this will help achieve whatever larger goal we want to achieve, but it might not always be the case that this would turn out to be that way. And in these cases where you realize that whatever your current path is not going to serve to your larger life goal or purpose, then quitting it is being actually perseverant towards your goal, not the other way around. And we should always remember this saying, which I think was made popular by Bear Grylls, that adaptability is one of the highest forms of intelligence. So think of it in this way, that this is just being you, being adaptable to your circumstances, but being true to your larger goal and your larger purpose for life, for which you had actually started that one particular path. And so let's also look at the second misunderstanding that I talked about, which is that this idea of never giving up, the way that it is popularized on social media, does not often match up with the genuine people who are actually trying to pursue something. Well, the reason is that most people They actually internally realize when something is not working right and when something needs to be given up on. But they fear that society will judge them or that people will label them as losers, not hardworking enough, not being able to handle difficult things. Well, the truth here is that this action of quitting might look the same on the surface, but the intention behind it matters a lot. Quitting because you are lazy and you do not want to work towards your goals is very different than quitting because you know that you need to adapt, that you need to change directions, and that this particular thing might not work out because it does not and will not serve your larger purpose. And this distinction is very important to understand because the saying and the way that it was forced onto us was meant for people who are lazy, not for people who are genuinely pursuing something and might need to adapt. And all of this also very neatly ties into that classical psychological problem of sunk cost fallacy, which basically is this idea that the human psychology is such that if we have invested some resources into something and we recognize that it's not going to work out, even then this tendency comes up to invest more resources into it in the hopes that maybe it will work. But in most cases it does not, and in most cases the smart decision is to just let whatever cost has sunk just sunk and move on. And so to sum up what we have discussed till now, I have these three core points written here with me. Number one, intelligent quitting is being perseverant. So perseverance is not about never quitting, it's about knowing when to intelligently quit. Focus on your principles and adapt your tactics. Most people compromise on their principles and stay stuck to whatever short-term tactics that they have chosen, which is which is the other way around. And third one is simply knowing when to change direction. So this takes up um, a little bit of intelligent foreseeing and to know when is the genuine reason to quitting. Anyhow, I hope that this would have given some clarity around this commonly forced psychotic obsession on never giving up. While what we actually want right now is to intelligently navigate our way around these short term ideas in order to achieve our larger life purpose and goal.